As a continuation of my series of live Facebook posts, I thought I should this morning go live about the shocking treatment that the People's Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, is receiving because of the vindictiveness of President Ramaphosa and his acolytes in the African National Congress. Yesterday, Advocate Mkhwebane quite correctly went back to her Public Protector's office, and yet she was prevented from entering the premises. Illegally so, because the Section 194 inquiry is finished. It is over. What actually happened was that the protectors of Advocate Mkhwebane, South African Police Service protectors, were phoned and instructed not to accompany her to the Public Protector's office, exposing her and her own life to severe danger. Cyril Ramaphosa and those who have instructed those protectors not to go there, and who then cynically deployed women police to abuse women for the sake of preventing a fellow woman, Advocate Mkhwebane, from entering the Public Protector's office, should be ashamed of themselves. But we have learned to expect this from this Pala Pala farm gate mafia thug. Now this morning I want to state unequivocally that the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance fully supports our People's Public Protector, Advocate Mkhwebane. We also would like to express our outrage at the continuing vilification and attacks that are being launched against her. This evening, we will host the In My Crosshairs Twitter space, where Advocate Mkhwebane herself will be present, together with representatives of civil society, the legal fraternity, and also from fellow progressive political parties who have taken their stand strong and clear about this farcical intention to impeach Advocate Mkhwebane. ARETA fully supports the excellent letter that the African Transformation Movement sent to the Speaker of Parliament, demanding that the vote on Monday, the 11th of September, with regards to this intended impeachment, must be by secret ballot. We insist that that should happen, because it is evident that there will be severe pressure and, in fact, intimidation on members of Parliament, and specifically on those few African National Congress members of Parliament who still have a conscience. We have noted the statement by the Secretary General of the African National Congress, who said that all the members must be there and they are being given a free line whip to vote in line with what Cyril Ramaphosa wants, which is the impeachment of Advocate Mkhwebane. Now, of course, we do not expect anything different from that blower of hot air and windbag that is the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula. But at the same time, the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance would like to call on all concerned South Africans, also on members of fellow political parties that are progressive and who have opposed this attack, this totally unprincipled, uncalled for attack on the People's Public Protector, to gather on Monday, the 11th of September, outside Parliament, and to protest against what will be happening inside that parliament. The abuse of our public representatives, where many of them will once again be abusing the support that they've been given by the South African voters, and will be flagrantly breaking their oath of allegiance to South Africa and to our Constitution. I have stood before, outside that parliament, protesting and calling that Cyril Ramaphosa must go. At the time when I did so, it also related to the Phala Phala Farmgate scandal, which evidently this attempt to impeach Advocate Mkhwebane is directly related to, because her suspension came directly from Cyril Ramaphosa after she sent him 32 seminal questions about his dreadful conduct with regards to the Phala Phala Mafia Farmgate scandal. Now, I call, as a fellow South African and also as president of ARETA, on all concerned South Africans to join me in a public protest outside the South African Parliament on the morning of the 11th of September, as that farcical Section 194 vote will be taking place inside Parliament. I've stood there alone before. I'm not scared of doing so again. But let me make a strong call to fellow South Africans to join me. In the past, many of you have expressed your verbal support when I protested. But you also allowed me to stand alone to protest. So you were not putting your actions where your mouth was. On Monday, I call on you. Act. Join me. Let's build a strong, numerically strong protest outside that parliament. But even if you don't come, I will be there. And I will, together with a few other South Africans and members of the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance, who will join me, also represent your outrage. This has gone far enough. We can no longer allow our state institutions to be hollowed out and destroyed by the mafia-like regime that is now in control of our state. What we see now is truly state capture. We see the destruction of our state. We see full destruction of all the institutions, including the Public Protector's Office, our legal system, our National Assembly, yes, also our police force and the National Prosecuting Authority. It is a wholesale destruction for the sake of the protection of one man and the criminals that surround him. The time had come, and it is now, this very moment, for us to draw a strong line in the sand, to say thus far and no further, to stand up, to show our mettle, to protest against these things, and to say this farcical, this illegitimate, this fascist regime of Cyril Ramaphosa must go. That is the call that I'm making as the president of the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance. And that is the call with which I reach out to every South African with a conscience. Whether you can physically be there with me on Monday, the 11th of September, outside Parliament, or whether you are there in spirit, in soul, in crying out about the injustice that is being committed against Advocate Mkhwebane, but in general about the destruction of our government institutions and our state organs. Please join me in whichever way you can, and join us tonight also on the In My Crosshairs X space, which will start at 7 o'clock, where, as I've said, Advocate Mkhwebane herself will be present and will speak also her mind in the very fearless way that she's always able to do so. I thank you for listening to this live link-up on Facebook, and I thank you for the commitment that so many of you, as followers, as progressive South Africans, as members and supporters of the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance, have shown for our principled stand against the capture of our South African state, against the continuing oppression of the South African people, and about our principled position for the implementation of radical economic transformation, and our clarion call that Cyril Ramaphosa, his sellouts, and the sell-out African National Congress must go. As always, I sign off with the call that is unanimous with the stance of the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance. Aluta continua. See you on Monday in front of the Parliament in Cape Town to stand up for justice, to fight injustice, to fight the abuse of our Constitution, to protect our nation.